A different perspective, a new insight into life, a nugget of positivity and a hidden truth, and maybe an amusement for you. Welcome to From My Standpoint, a twice-a-month podcast with your host, Josh C. Jones.
Hey, welcome, and thank you for tuning in to From My Standpoint. I'm your host, Josh C. Jones. If this is your first time listening, then I thank you for tuning in. What am I saying? Of course it is most likely your first time. This is the first show. Anyway, if you have not subscribed yet, then I encourage you to subscribe to From My Standpoint to ensure you receive a reminder when new episodes are released. And you can follow me on Facebook at FM Standpoint, on Instagram at From My Standpoint, and at the website www.fromtheirstandpoint.com. That's from THEIR standpoint.com. Also, I want to inform you that if you prefer to read, I suggest you check out the show notes, also known as the blog, at the website From Their Standpoint, and click on the blog menu for my show From My Standpoint, where I will sometimes add links and some extra information that may not make it in the podcast. All right. So since this is episode 1, I will do as is the custom with all first shows and give a little background about myself. First of all, one thing that I would really like to hear whenever I go walking anywhere is trumpets playing. Yeah, you heard that right. I'd like to hear trumpets playing wherever I go walk. Oh, but not just any trumpets, no. The trumpets from the song Uptown Funk. Oh, don't believe me? Just watch. Well, I hope at least one of you enjoyed that corny joke. I don't often do pop culture jokes. All right, but, I may use a laugh track often because it seems like I need it.
Did you make a joke?
I tried to, random voice of questions. Anyway, welcome to my podcast, and like I said, I do hope you have or will visit the website and read the blogs at fromtheirstandpoint.com. Like I said, although the blogs will pretty much be the transcript of the podcast, well, in fact, the blogs were actually written first. Then they were revised and recorded as a podcast. Either way, you might hear more content on the podcast since I can easily speak what comes to my mind while recording, and we can make it a little more interesting and entertaining, and I might flub from time to time and just leave it in there. However, there also may be times where there is some content posted with the blog that does not make it to the podcast for one reason or another. Maybe it was too long, or it just sounded boring when I listened back to it, so I cut it out of the podcast. Either way, if you prefer to read, check out the blog. If you prefer to listen, fantastic, and thank you for tuning in. And just to let everyone know, this show will not disappear anytime soon. Yeah, you heard that right. I will not disappear anytime soon. This show will not. Because I have already written and prepared almost 2 years worth of episodes. Yeah, you heard that right. Almost 2 years worth of episodes already written and prepared. Yeah, I started writing them back in January. So January of 2020 this year. And I finished about 44 or 45 of the episodes by July of 2020. And my goal is 50. And I want to keep going from there. But just so you know, if you like it and subscribe, you'll have 2 years worth of shows to listen to. And granted, some of these shows might be altered as time goes on and more information or experiences are gained. However, so long as I keep to the twice-a-month schedule, if you like this show, like I said, you'll be comforted to know that it'll be here for you to listen to for at least 2 years. I do hope to and plan to continue the show even after that. But since none of us can truly see into the future, I wanted to make sure there were enough shows for 2 years just in case anything unforeseen should ever happen. And like I said, since they're written, they're color coded. I got a keynote up there. I've got notes in case, heaven forbid, anything should ever happen to me or somebody needs to step in. They can easily do the shows without me. And in case you're wondering, this is my first podcast on my own, but I have helped produce others. Also, contrary to what it might look like, this is not my first time to write a blog post. It is, however, my first blog and podcast for this show, though. But, like I said, I have written many blogs before that were hosted on another site.
Why start this blog then?
That is a great question. Thank you, Random Voice of Questions, for asking. My other blogs were under a different name and were mostly political in nature. I used to have a very heavy appetite for reading and learning about politics. Cookies! Nom, 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 nom. Yeah, something like that. And why not? I mean, it is, after all, what governs our freedoms and has an influence on our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And, as we all know, political topics can be heated and controversial. Man, do we know that in today's time. If you don't believe me, just log on to social media. But what can also be controversial and sometimes taboo is religious topics.
No! No!
Whoa, 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 whoa. Calm down there. I'm not going all religious on you here.
Preach it!
Oh, heck no. I might be a wannabe entertainer, but I don't want to be canceled on my first show. And I am not opening that can of worms. At least not yet.
So you're not going to be an actor and do an impression?
No, not at this time, Random Voice of Questions. Anyway, I think these two topics, politics and religion, are sometimes considered controversial and taboo, due in part to our teaching to avoid such topics in order to avoid possible confrontation and to avoid offending someone. But whatever the real reason for everyone trying to avoid this, I chose to remain anonymous with those blogs at that time. Because yes, I was worried about angering anyone I cared about and hurting their feelings, which is also known as being offended. And I was afraid of doing this by speaking of something that I truly believed in, that I truly perceived, or something I truly experienced, but they might disagree with.
Isn't it a perceived insult if someone says they are offended? I mean, if I disagree with you on anything, then because I don't agree with you or want to hear what you have to say, I could call what you said offensive and claim to be offended, right?
Well, don't take offense, but I've got a good mind to gouge both of your eyes out.
Wow. I am so sorry, Random Voice of Questions. That got kind of violent fast. I guess that guy was offended at your question. But as I was saying, contrary to the old imperative belief that tolerance, open-mindedness, and love are important, valued, and held in high regard, speaking an opinion, belief, the truth, a perception, or using logic outside of culture's accepted circle. And in the case of these two topics of politics and religion, and really especially anything on social media, it appears to be anything that might differ from the reader's or listener's opinion or perception, and be anything the reader or listener does not like or agree with. Well, speaking anything, like I said, outside of culture's accepted circle is often seen as offensive and sometimes viewed as an instigated attack of hate. In other words, if it is perceived as offensive, it can, and most likely will, very likely, be perceived and labeled as hate speech.
Hate speech is that which encourages violence toward a person or group, and is often expressed as hatred for a group of people. Hate speech is not speech, perceptions, facts, or ideology that you just do not like or agree with.
That is so true, random voice of reason. But since we tend to view it as anything that deviates from our thinking or likes or affiliations, for this reason and others, I chose to remain anonymous then. However, I have since learned that there are some valuable and important positives from all the supposed negative, such as standing firm and be willing to, in a respectful and entertaining way, voice and explain your thoughts, beliefs, perceptions, or logic will not only help you become more confident with who you are, what you believe, and help cultivate and solidify your foundation for your life, but it will also reveal to you who your friends are.
Friendship is about trust, care, and compassion, not necessarily about holding identical beliefs, opinions, and perceptions in life.
Thank you for that random voice of reason, and I completely agree with you. Also, if we avoid discussions on certain topics, that includes listening to another perspective, then we are actively avoiding a learning opportunity. And by avoiding open and honest discussions about topics and factual data and perceptions, we nullify any true desire or attempt to truly find any common ground or make any lasting and positive changes to the perceptions of any issue or problem. Now, those that can read and listen to differing views, whether they agree with any of it or not, and still find common ground, still choose to learn from another's viewpoint, still choose to extend a hand of friendship and tolerance and love, they will be revealed to you. Those will be your true friends. Those are the people you want to hang on to. Now, these are the people, you and I included, yes, you and I are together, that if we choose to do the same, are the ones who can understand, or at least are learning and choosing to try to work toward understanding, tolerance, open-mindedness, and love.
Remember, though, you do not have to participate in or agree with all they might say or do, and vice versa.
That is another great point, random voice of reason. And let me add on to that this advice. That is, so long as we keep our language as clean as possible and explain our points as best as we can, because there is rarely reason for foul, hurtful, and derogatory language. Yeah, exactly. Just beep that language out. Now, sure, there will always be those who will choose to argue with you, choose to immediately raise a defense, choose to ignore anything that deviates from their opinion or perception, and choose to try and silence you and your thoughts, opinions, beliefs, perceptions, or logic. And there will always be those who will still choose to suppress any differing perceptions, beliefs, logic, experiences, and the truth. I say, let them try if they think it would help make them feel better, because you never know. You might just be the only one showing kindness by being willing to listen to them complain. And that could just be the positive they need in their life. Someone to kindly hear them vent. Who knows? Besides, most of the time when we write or speak, we do not write or speak just for them, that is, those that just want to fight and argue. We write and speak for ourselves, and those who truly wish to listen, to learn, to understand, to grow, or just attempt to follow a reasoning for why someone would hold thoughts, opinions, beliefs, a perception, or logic different than theirs. We also write and speak for those whom agree with us and are looking for more solidifying information or logic to help in their lives. We all have a unique life, which offers unique experiences that help build upon our unique story to tell. We should tell that story. Notice, I did not just say tell that opinion, because not all opinions are always worth telling. Besides, we live in the digital age where it is even easier for us to be able to tell our story. We should try and find a positive for learning and growing in our stories and embrace the good that comes from perceived bad. Our stories could be the very thing that someone else needs to read, view, or hear to overcome, to hang on, to understand, to see hope, or just to enjoy and be entertained with in their hustle and bustle world. It does not have to be in a blog or in writing or in podcast form such as this. It could be in sculpture, in film, in photography, in painting, in design, or any number of avenues. So, I now write and create this podcast under my name, and I write the blogs that are on the website FromTheirStandpoint.com under my name. And you should tell your story, your perception, your belief, your logic under your name. Oh, and since you have, read to the end of the blog, or in this case, listened to the end of this podcast, I should also inform you that there is another intention with this venture. I have written 4 transcripts for books thus far, and when they are ready to be published, I would like to first inform those of you who subscribe to my podcast or read the blogs. You don't have to read the books when they are published, but if you do, I would greatly appreciate any feedback and thoughts on them. Thank you. And don't forget, if you have not subscribed yet, then I encourage you to subscribe to From My Standpoint to ensure you receive a reminder when new episodes are released. You can follow me on Facebook at FM Standpoint, on Instagram at From My Standpoint, and at the website www.fromtheirstandpoint.com. That's from THEIR standpoint.com, and click on my show, From My Standpoint. And now, what you've all been waiting for, it's the wisdom of Dad Joke. Speaking of people who like to argue and fight, I once had a conversation with one of those types of people, and, well, it quickly went negative with them, like really fast. And when that happens, what do you do? Yeah, you beep that negative out. Well, for example, let me tell you a little bit about this. I'm not sure what was going on really, but when they started talking to me, they were completely out of breath and red in the face. They just started the conversation. They just screamed at me, "You have not listened to a word I have said, have you?" I was taken back for a moment. I was like, whoa, calm down there, slow your roll. Then I said to them, "That is a very odd way to begin a conversation."
This has been From My Standpoint, a podcast to find a nugget of positivity and a hidden truth, encouraging and enlightening insight, entertaining a new perspective, and providing an amusement for you. We hope you were entertained, encouraged, enlightened, and enjoyed the show.